What's good, Bulls fans, and welcome to a special bonus episode of the Horns Over Hoops podcast. We are your hosts, Sal Bass, Scott Berman, and Dan Gracie. Fellas, how's it going?
It's going good. Going real good. Stringing together. Well, I got a win last night against the Spurs, so it's always good. It's freezing. It's freezing over here in the suburbs of Chicago.
How's your guys' New Year's resolutions going? I know we all kind of had the same thing, lose a little bit of weight. Dan, although I don't know where you're going to lose your weight.
Yeah, my goal is actually to gain a little, get a little bigger, but my metabolism has other plans, I guess.
Scott, how's your journey going, or is it pretty much dead?
Was not one of my goals, but I started taking Adderall and it caused me to lose 20 pounds. So
it does. It takes away appetite.
Yeah. My New Year's resolution is going right on course here. My goal was to fit better in this Denzel Valentine jersey, and it comes on a lot easier now. I don't know if it's because I'm losing weight so much or stretching it out, testing the limits of the stitching, but it's fitting better. Fellas, we put together a bonus episode because the Bulls hosted their inaugural Ring of Honor ceremony during halftime of the Golden State Warriors game. And we've had some mixed opinions about it, but for the most part, from what we've seen, it didn't go as well as it could have. I think it could have gone a little bit better. Of course, everyone has seen the headlines of the ups and downs, mainly the downs. So we thought we'd give you guys a bonus episode and really break it down. So again, if for those Bulls fans who still are hazy what the Ring of Honor is, the Ring of Honor is essentially a Chicago Bulls Hall of Fame, honoring Bulls that have come or Bulls coaches or administrative positions that have just done wonders for the team. They plan on doing it every 2 years, so this wasn't just a one and done. Although how this one went, they may want to think of just retiring it. But this time around, they commemorated the 95-96 Bulls. There's later plans to do the other classes as well. There was a lot of controversy that went down, but before we get to that, let's just give you an overview how the night went. Scott, how'd you think the Ring of Honor went?
it was half and half for me. The biggest thing is it's cool that they did it, but it's so unoriginal. It's definitely a copy of a lot of other teams have done it before. Jerry's just trying to just bring back fans because obviously he's doing a shit job running the team. Or Michael, whoever the Reinsdorf is running, is just doing a shit job. So they're just trying to bring us back to the glory days.
Yeah, if we know Bulls fans love their 90s Bulls. It's almost like, if you're a Bears fan in Chicago, the Bears fans love their 85 Bears. And they could have said that about the 2006 Bears, but they ended up losing. But that's another story.
I thought it was more bad than good, personally. Just production wise and everything. If you really wanted to honor these guys, you should have gone a little bit above and beyond. Especially since you talk about how us Bulls fans love to talk about our the 90s nostalgia era. It's because that's the only thing we have going for us, really. I mean, since Michael left, we had that 2016 team? No, not 2016, the 2011, I think, with Derrick Rose and Carlos Boozer and all those guys that went to the Eastern Conference. But other than that, it was just Michael and Scotty and the rest of the guys from the 90s. Personally, I'm tired of talking about the past. This team needs to, or this organization needs to get over the past and look towards the future. And that's just one thing that they refuse to do because there's no money in that. That's all the Reinsdorfs care about.
We were talking about that last episodes. That you cut the mirrors off the rear view mirrors off your car because you only look forward, you don't look back. I mean, honestly, though, it would be a lot easier to do if this organization gave us stuff to look forward to more than just once every 20 years. Like you said, outside of the 90s.
Back in the D-Rose era, they had a 20th anniversary for the 90s team or whatever. I think they did. Or maybe it was a 10-year or something.
No, it was the 20th anniversary of the first championship.
That's what I thought. And I thought it was cool then, but now I'm just how about we get a more current championship to talk about?
Yeah. That's a whole nother story on its own. My thoughts were, I thought the gesture was good. I mean, it's always good to honor the the pride of the teams that have come before you. I'm always a big firm believer of, respect the pioneers that came before you. Unfortunately, I expected this to go exactly how it went, given it was a Chicago Bulls run organization, whether it be the Reinsdorf not shelling out the cash or just, we had no real direction to go. But I kind of thought that this team, especially the 95-96 team that they were honoring, I think they deserved a little bit better than what we gave the fans, or what we gave them, that is. I think it'll be, I know it'll be back next year, but I got some criticism what they can do for next time. I mean, hell, Big Three wasn't even there for this one. I mean, we saw a lot of stars. We saw a lot of members of that 90s team, but the reason people would go, MJ, Dennis, and Scotty weren't even there.
The main reason why people would want to go.
Right. As I said earlier, though, but we did have some Bulls members from present and past. We had Artis Gilmore in the house, one of the greatest centers we've ever had, arguably the best center we've had. Bob Love, you guys might recognize that name if you go to the United Center and look up, because his name's in the rafter. Phil Jackson, Will Perdue, Neil the Hunk was in the house, and Luke Longley. Luke Longley was there sporting a new look. What do you think of Luke Longley's like surfer dude looking vibes? Like, he was looking good.
I want to party with Luke Longley so bad now. Like, ever since I saw him, I was just like, this guy likes to party. So I'll fly out to Australia if you give me some drinks. Just give me some Fosters.
Scott, what'd you think of Luke?
Well, first they don't drink Fosters out there. I think it's VB, man. But I love that everybody was dressed up in like suits, and then Luke Longley's just in like jeans and like a jean jacket. Just like looking like, hey, I'm just coming here to hang out. That was awesome. He's gone fully into Australian basketball. We talked about it during the Scott episode. It's great to see what he's doing for that country, and it was really good to see him in person. But it kind of sucks that it's like, hey, we saw him. Way to not announce him. Yeah. Way to not announce anybody in that team. Like, all these people came in and they don't announce any of them.
They skipped over.
That's stupid.
They skipped over so many players, and especially Luke Longley, since he came from Australia, and you're just gonna act like he's not even there during the ceremony. Get out of here, Jerry. Get out of here, Michael.
Yeah, they definitely need to watch the tape and fix this for next time. I feel like I said before, I feel like these players deserved better. I mean, the whole reason we are celebrating this night was because of those players. We literally have nothing else to look back on other than that era.
Well, I mean, besides the Derrick Rose era, but that ended so sad.
Yes, it did. Yeah, we talked about that on our last cast, that those could be members of potentially the next Ring of Honor or Ring of Honors to follow.
Well, I mean, honestly, for the next one, who else are you going to talk about?
They put too many in this one.
You blew your load too quick.
Well, I have a strong suspicion the next one, I'm predicting it now, will be regarding the 92 year, because that was the year we won. I think we won like 67 games.
I think the next one should be the 80s Bulls, and see them now that they're off cocaine and off all the drugs. Do a before and after.
I don't think it won't be a team. It'll be like they'll bring Noah in, and they'll bring like Luol Deng and Kirk Heinrich, and then that's it.
Yeah, I don't think
it's like a Hall of Fame. So like they're just going to induct in either individuals or a group of people.
I don't think like they're going to bring in like Kyle Korver or Ronnie Brewer or Keith Bogans.
I don't think just yet. I mean, that 2011-2010 team could be significant enough to have, I mean, their own, but I mean, outside of winning 60-something games, that team really didn't accomplish too much.
I mean,
I don't want to say it like
the team that went all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals could do that one.
Phil Jackson was there. Did you guys see like the absolute ovation that Phil Jackson got?
I mean, as he should. I love Phil Jackson.
Phil Jackson, I'll give it to him, man. I don't know. He's got to be well into his 70s, probably 80s.
Late 70s, mid 80s, got to be.
And he was looking good. I mean, he had that cane, but I mean, he was. And you can tell that ovation meant a lot to him. I mean, he deserved that, every bit of that ovation. I kind of wish they would have like held on and made his ovation longer. You know what I mean? Because I think Neil kind of cut that ovation a little too short for my
Well, I mean,
liking.
Neil has to go back to bed here. Okay, the man's like 90 something, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, they also did it during halftime, which is what you get like 12
Yeah,
minutes.
and there's so many. Then they had so many like former players and like front office members there. He had to like get through them all.
This should have been a before the game type thing,
Mm-hmm.
or like after the game type thing.
Or
you give more time.
Yeah, or like do like half before, then like focus on like the 95, 96 Bulls during halftime or something.
Also, conspiracy theory, they did it against the Warriors so they could try to get Steve Kerr out of the locker room so they could make changes. And then Steve Kerr still made a bunch of changes and the Warriors kicked our ass after halftime.
We're too focused on this Ring of Honor bullshit.
Actually, I have a theory about that second half. We'll get to it later because there's one topic we're not mentioning. Everybody knows what we're alluding to there, but we'll talk about that a little later because that's gonna need an extended segment on its own. Like we said earlier, the three players that everyone came to see weren't present. Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, the three players that, basically paved the way for these guys couldn't make it. I know Mike said that he couldn't make it due to weather. I couldn't remember what Scotty's excuse was, and I think Rodman's was something similar to Mike with, weather. But I mean, unless he flew out earlier, Luke Longley came all the way from Australia. This man flew thousands and thousands of miles and
Luke Longley was probably up there in the snowstorm. Was like, "You call this a storm?"
So, I mean, that was a little disappointing. You would think that like the first Ring of Honor, you'd get your meat and potatoes to make it to the show.
Yeah, it was disappointing, mainly because I feel like most people wanted to, well, at least me anyways, I wanted to see the interaction between Scotty and Michael with all their behind the scenes drama going on with Michael's son and then Scotty's ex-wife. Like I was so ready for
100%.
The awkwardness.
100%. Yeah, dude. And that was, and there are people chit-chatting on the Twitter sphere that was a contributor to why they didn't show up. Dennis didn't show up. I don't know. Maybe he was partying in North Korea, and I don't know. But those two, I'm willing to wager that it had something to do with. There's a lot of tension between them.
I feel like with Mike, it was mainly because the snowstorm. I feel like Scotty, honestly, like the more time goes by, the more and more I start to dislike Scotty as a person, not as a player. Like as a player, like I will forever respect Scottie Pippen, but doesn't mean I have to like him as a person. Because I feel like he straight up dodged the Ring of Honor because of Mike. The snowstorm probably paid some factor into it. I didn't see anything from Scotty. Like I saw the video from Michael. I saw a little thing from Dennis Rodman. I didn't see anything from Scottie Pippen.
Well, here, I was going to mention this later when we mention this. I want your guys' opinion on this, okay? Because I do feel like it correlates to mainly probably why he was absent. Do you guys think that Scottie Pippen deserves better than what not only the fans gave him, but what was portrayed upon him in The Last Dance? Do you think that he deserved to be portrayed in a better manner? Scott, what do you think?
Well, first, I hate The Last Dance. It's awful. It was like the first couple episodes were cool, and then it just turned into a Jordan love fest. The rest of the team is bullshit. There's a bunch of problems with the organization. I hated it. I couldn't even finish it. I think I got to the second to last episode and stopped watching. It's terrible. I might get heat for that. Awful.
Yeah, you probably will.
But Scottie Pippen, yeah. It's, again, from Jordan's perspective. So it's, I'm the best. The rest of the team is just there to help me. It's the reason why they didn't talk about Luke Longley. They barely talked about Tony Kukoc. They talked a little bit about Pippen, but again, it really wasn't showing how much he was a shutdown defender, how much he helped the team. It was a terrible documentary. I hated it. But yes, he should get more credit for what he did for this team. He helped this team make the playoffs when Jordan retired because he had a gambling addiction. He's done a lot for this team. The fans give him shit. Well, his whole life went to shit after he went there. After he retired and left the Bulls. And I feel like the Bulls really didn't help him after. So
He was the ambassador. He was Bulls ambassador. I don't know what that job is, but
show up to the games, get paid.
Yeah, exactly. What does an ambassador really do? I feel like that's like the player mascot outside of Benny.
isn't it Joakim Noah now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he shows up to
He just
games.
shows up to games and
and
gets paid.
yeah, that's exactly what it
Easy
is.
money.
I do want to go against Jordan. Jordan doesn't care about the Bulls anymore. When was the last time he did anything Bulls related? I know he was the Charlotte Hornets owner, so he couldn't really, but he doesn't care about the Bulls. He doesn't make an effort to do anything for this organization. He's over it. He doesn't care about Chicago anymore. He had some bad blood in the end, and that's why he went to the Wizards. And he's over this organization, and I don't think he'll ever do anything with this organization again. Rodman, I didn't expect him to show up because Rodman's on his own time and just does whatever he wants. I think he's over the NBA, and he doesn't want to be part of it anymore.
Yeah, the NBA seemed kind of rough for him. I was actually watching The Last Dance yesterday. Only got through the first 3 episodes. Forgot it was 10 episodes, and each episode was an hour long. Didn't have 10 hours to kill. With Scottie, like I said, I love Scottie Pippen as a player. As a person, he's kind of a bitch.
Yeah, he's made some questionable decisions.
Like, not even, it's not all Michael Jordan or Bulls related stuff. I mean, kind of is. Like, how he's always praising LeBron James. Like, I understand LeBron James is probably last generation's GOAT and everything. He's a top 5 player of all time, hands down. But I mean, I feel like he's just praising LeBron James just because he hates Michael, just solely because he hates Michael Jordan.
Yeah, we all remember his interview where he's like, Michael Jordan may be the greatest scorer, but I'm willing to wager that LeBron James is the greatest player to ever play the game. And that's coming from somebody who won you 6 rings.
Right. Like, you didn't do it by yourself. And I'm not saying that obviously Michael couldn't do it by himself. He needed Scottie and he needed Dennis. I mean, he leaned on Dennis when Scottie was out. But yeah, like, I'm not with Scottie. Same with Michael. Like, Michael Jordan, in my book, he's a GOAT. I don't think he's the GOAT. I don't think any one player is the greatest of all time. I think there's just levels and then positions and then generational talent and stuff like that. But yeah, Michael as a person, piece of shit person.
Absolutely.
As an athlete, phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Here's the thing, like, regards to the big 3. I'll say this about I'll start with Rodman. As far as Rodman's concerned, let's just face it, he wasn't there, and I share your guys' opinion of he probably just didn't care. Dennis Rodman, I want you guys to think of this. Dennis Rodman will go down as history as like the biggest, maid of honor that ever played the game. Yeah, like how the maid of honor, when the bride is walking down the aisle, they like go fix the dress and stuff like that. So he was just there helping the other 2. Mike, we all know how he is off the court. We all know that there was a conspiracy theory going on that Michael Jordan really didn't retire those 2 years, that, he got suspended by the league, and to save his image, the league told him that, you retire and you can stay this beloved guy. And then, when you come back, it'll be like this big thing, maybe to generate more revenue for the league. Who knows? But we all know that as a role model and as a player, MJ wasn't the greatest. Yet, I will say this about Scottie. I was a Scottie Pippen fan. I was a big fan of Scottie Pippen. I do believe that we do need to give him more credit than he deserved, because outside of being the teammate to the greatest player of all time, he's also a top 50 player of all time on his own. So he didn't get there by riding on coattails. He paved the way on his own. He had tremendous stats. He's up there in stats of all time for our team. I don't like his off-court antics, though.
Real quick, didn't Scottie help the Blazers get to the playoffs or something when he left?
Oh, I'm not sure. I know that, that team also had talent of its own, but he's a tremendous athlete. But the off-court issues, I don't know if it's he finds it or they find him. I mean, we all know he had some case, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, where he assaulted somebody outside of a restaurant. We all know that, I mean, if you're a Chicago fan, if you're a true fan of Chicago and a resident, you know that Scottie Pippen as a person isn't the friendliest. It's kind of like an unwritten nickname of Scottie Pippen's that his nickname was No Tippin' Pippen
Oh,
because he's like he's notorious for going into like restaurants and not tipping and not treating waitresses. Again, I'm not here to call him out. Again, I'm a big Scottie Pippen fan, which is why it's kind of heartbreaking hearing him not buying into the Chicago Bulls organization, whether it's the way we treated him or on his own. But I feel like he deserved a lot better. And of course, the thing going on with Michael's son and his ex-wife, why would you want to be in the same room as somebody like that? I mean, I can understand being the bigger person, but to some extent, you got to have some dignity. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, Michael Reinsdorf should have read the writing on the wall, like read the room.
Yeah. Yeah. Or maybe it was, I'll be honest with you, maybe it was too soon. Maybe this could have happened next year, or in 2 years when it was 2025, 2026, and it would have been like the 30-year anniversary you do the Ring of Honor. But the year that, Michael's son is engaged to your wife.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and granted, I'm sure the Bulls are like, we got to look past that. It's just really poor timing. So as a whole, I can't blame either one of those three for not wanting to be there. Fellas, we mentioned all the stars in the stands rather. We didn't mention one particular individual. We alluded to it that was present in the stands because, well, let's just cut the mystery out of it. Thelma Krause, the widow of the late Jerry Krause, was in the stands, and this particular portion of the Ring of Honor kind of stole the show in a negative way, and I'll say kind of left a stain on the entire organization, and let's just say the city of Chicago as a whole. For those of you guys who have no idea what I'm talking about, first I'll ask you to climb out of the rock that you guys are living in, because this story has literally been everywhere. So the Bulls were honoring all their players. They got to the GM during the glory days, Jerry Krause. Everybody knows him. Of course, Jerry Krause has since passed, so they show Thelma Krause, and everybody is booing Jerry Krause. And Thelma Krause, very visually disturbed and humiliated by that, is seen crying. She refused to stand up. And it just trickled down. It just escalated, and it kind of enraged everybody. So we'll spend a majority of the time talking about that. I want to get your guys' take on it. Scott, what do you think about what happened to Thelma?
Well, first, Jerry Krause is hated in Chicago. I think a lot of the fans that were there, they didn't watch the Bulls when Jerry Krause is there. They're like our age or younger. Yeah. If you look at the fans, they have no idea. They get their opinion of Jerry Krause from The Last Dance. And again, why I hate that documentary. It was such a shitty way that they did it. They could have announced her name first, or being here for Jerry Krause, Thelma Krause. They could have done that, but they did it the opposite. The fans did start cheering her after, but Jerry Krause has been hated in Chicago since the 90s. And the problem is there's too much blame on Jerry for breaking up this team. And a lot of the problem comes from the owner, because Jerry Reinsdorf is a cheap piece of shit and would not let him pay people. Jerry Krause, yes, he has some blame, but again, a lot of the blame should go to ownership for not letting him spend money. Drafted so many good people. He put together so many good teams. Yes, he has a bad eye in Chicago, but there's too much blame on him. It was an awful thing that they made her cry, and it's such a shitty thing. What did they expect? How tone deaf do you have to be to do this? Like, the Reinsdorfs are so stupid thinking this was not going to happen. He's hated in Chicago. It was such a stupid thing, and it made me have less respect for the owners.
Well put. Dan, what was your take on it?
Didn't know Scott was going to go on a tyrant like that. I agree. I'm pretty sure I texted you guys once they showed Jerry's picture up there on the big screen and everything, and I was laughing about the boos and everything, and up until I saw his wife bawling her eyes out, and I felt bad. Like, I felt bad for her. Like, as much as I don't like Jerry, because again, like Scott pointed out, I didn't know about the front office stuff when I was 9 years old. I just only know about Jerry Krause through The Last Dance, and they did villainize him in that, but I mean, he did his job. He got us 6 rings. Let it go. Like, don't hold on to don't hold on to some hateful past that you got from a documentary made by ESPN, who already doesn't like the Bulls. I mean, the only time we're mentioned on major networks like ESPN is when we embarrass ourselves. I mean, that's my 2 cents. Scott pretty much hit the nail on the head with everything that I had to say as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, guys, I'm gonna get on a soapbox with this topic because this one kind of hit. I don't want to, not close to home, but this one was a little, I don't want to say personal, but I felt for this woman tremendously. So us as fans, we got to remember we see the game in 2 ways. We see it in a spectator view, and we kind of see it in a general manager, salary. What I'm trying to say is we just watch the games. We can point out who's good, who's bad. We can look at trades and we can see, this contract works with that. He'll probably get this contract, but that's how we view the games. Okay. The general manager position is leaps and bounds more than just those two. And to hand Jerry Krause, the reins of a team and put together, not just a team, but an absolute dynasty, a team that will go down. We'll just put it this way, a team that is Chicago basketball. When you think of Chicago basketball, it's Michael Jordan and this team all put together by Jerry Krause. So to see him absolutely shamed and hated, I was watching the Bulls back then, and Jerry Krause was even disliked back then because Jerry Krause didn't like the media. Jerry Krause hated the media. Okay, but in a sense, he won us basketball games. He got us players. He did the GM's position. He's probably arguably, and I'll say this, the best GM in the history of the game. I don't think any other GM put together the team. And a lot of those, you guys remember, a lot of those players that they got were homegrown talents. Like, we picked them up. Or players that were subpar that came to this team and blossomed. But aside from that, I'll touch more on Thelma. A lot of us here, we've gone through breakups, but we've never lost a life partner. And Thelma Louise lost her husband of, I don't know how many years they were married. So besides being devastated that you lose your life partner, and now you're going to a ceremony where you think that he's going to be honored and, all his work and accomplishments are going to be, respected, and you're finally, let's just say they probably expected the hatchet to be buried. All right, you know what? Let's just move on from this. And you go there and your husband gets absolutely booed, and you start to feel humiliated, like your husband was the laughingstock of the league. I think she deserved better. That is absolutely terrible on us as fans, and that's terrible on the organization. Scott, I agree 100% with you. They should have said, here, accepting, respects for Jerry Krause is his, wife, his widow, Thelma. You know what I mean? Because the way they just threw her to the dogs like that, and then fans are like, oh shoot, that wasn't cool. You know what I mean?
Props to Stacey King, by the way, calling out all the fans in the standings and everything.
Yeah.
Pretty much condemning them. Also, kudos to King for calling out New York and Philly fans.
Yeah, actually, because he even said this isn't Philadelphia, this isn't New York, because you call it as it is, man. I mean, I'll say you call it as it is. I will put the people who didn't, hush him up equally as guilty as, what are you doing? That's the man responsible for bringing you all these championships. Without that man, there wouldn't be there right now. Let's just face it. And let's actually go even beyond that and say, without Jerry Krause, I don't think anybody will have watched 90s basketball. Jordan was there, but he drafted Scott. He technically made the trade on draft day to get Scottie Pippen. He went out and got Dennis. He drafted Horace. He brought in Tony Kukoc.
He didn't, or no, he did want Dennis Rodman. Phil didn't want Dennis.
Phil didn't want, no, Phil wanted Dennis.
No, he didn't.
Oh, Phil didn't want Dennis?
I literally watched, that was the last episode I watched yesterday.
Okay, even better, and to have that man's name not just dragged through the mud, but publicly displayed for his wife to take the now blame for it. I mean, that's terrible.
Can I actually jump back to something quite pretentious of Stacey King? Like, I agree with him basically on most things he says, but very pretentious of him to say Chicago fans are different than Philly in New York. Chicago fans are awful. They literally it's true.
We're not as bad as Philly, though. We're not as bad as Philly. We might be as bad as New York.
Philadelphia booed Santa Claus, so there's that. But yeah, but Chicago fans are awful. They literally went to Matt Nagy, the Bears' old coach's son's high school game, and started chanting "Fire Nagy." How much of a piece of shit do you have to be to go to a high school football game that your son is playing and hear chants that you need to be fired? Chicago fans are awful. And it's kind of bullshit that he tried to put Chicago fans on a different pedestal. We're terrible fans. It's every big city has awful fans. And he shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, actually, you have a point there, because when everything is going good, Chicago fans are the best fans in the world because we have just such devotion to our teams. I mean, off of basketball, Cubs fans, Cubs statistically speaking was like one of the worst franchises ever, and even them, they stuck around. They have true loyal fans, but when you're losing, we're the worst. I mean, you can go out there, make one mistake, and you're chastised. Jay Cutler was a great quarterback, okay, but in the city of Chicago, he was hated.
I feel like the entire city is just bandwagon. Like, when the team's doing great, they love the team. As soon as that team messes
100%.
up and is bad again, they lose all their fans, except the diehards. Like, back in the D-Rose era, like, everyone on their mom was a Bulls fan. As soon as Derek went down and we had just Jimmy, it was back to like, oh, you're a Bulls fan? Why?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I will say I catch more flack now for watching basketball than I ever did. But I just love the sport. Which it like Scott said, maybe it's just major market teams are terrible fans because they're going to go to the games regardless.
There's
what
very
I mean?
few fan bases that are truly loyal. Like you said, the Cubs. Look at Detroit. When was the last time Detroit had a good team? Right, fans are still going out to. Well, I'm just saying, fans are going
major cities.
No, but I'm saying Detroit has a good fan base. Like, they go to they still go to the Pistons games. The Pistons are dog shit. They go to the Lions games. The Lions have been dog shit for years, and all of a sudden they're good now. Those games were still sold out. You go to Browns games. Browns fans used to wear bags over the head because how bad the Browns were, but they still went to the games. Those are good fan bases. Chicago's not a good fan base. When the team sucks, they stop going to games. Look at the Blackhawks right now. No one's going to Blackhawks games. Look how many we were almost last in the league in people going to the games because the Bulls sucked. Chicago fans are big bandwagon fans. You could say that about LA. You could say that about New York. You could say it about every big area is bandwagon, but no one wants to go to a game when the team sucks.
Real quick hot take. Talk about a major city that has loyal fans. The Los Angeles Clippers. Would you consider them a good fan base, or do you think that once they're back to being bad again, they're going to hop back over to the Lakers? Because I do feel like the Clippers fans are hardcore Clippers fans. They don't care about the Lakers. The Lakers weren't even originally from LA.
I will say that Clippers fans are more genuine than Lakers fans. Okay, I'll say this here because we're here and everybody knows this. Everyone in Chicago knows that there's Cubs fans, there's White Sox fans. If you're a Cub fan, you're pretty much bred to hate the White Sox fan. Another reason why Chicago fans are terrible sometimes, but that's a different story. And if you're a White Sox fan, they were known as the more genuine fans of the game, whereas the Cubs were more like the not cult, but the cult fans, the history, the tradition.
It's like the Lakers and the Clippers. I mean, not how the Lakers are on this pedestal, and then the Clippers are all the way down at the base of the pedestal. like the Cubs fans, since they're North Siders, like I always felt like the North Side was always like hoity-toity and like all uptight and everything. And then I went down to the South Side to a Sox game, and it was just like, oh, this is more grounded.
Yeah, but you will find the most genuine fans in the world there. Not to get off topic, but it's exactly that. It's, when the Cubs are doing good, everyone watches. When the Cubs are doing bad, heads roll in a terrible way. When the Sox are just the Sox. But yes, major market fans, I will say Scott's 100% right. We do have a history of just being absolute terrible. Did you guys see the players weigh in on it? Debo talked about it. We already said Stacey King talked about it. Steve Kerr seemed pretty pissed off about it.
I honestly didn't see anything besides Stacey.
Yeah. Well, you heard Stacey.
Yeah.
So getting off topic, I mean, again, if we have to close in one thing, for whatever fans we do reach here, I'm just going to say that, we need to do better as a fan base. We need to remember that while they are here to entertain us, they are human beings. They do have lives, and their life spans more than just the court. They are real people, and we should just be genuine fans of not just the team, but what they bring to the table. Let's just get beyond our own personal pity box and just appreciate the players and appreciate what they brought to us as fans.
Yeah, the C in Chicago stands for class.
Yeah, that's I love that. I love that. The Bulls later on lost to the Warriors, and I want to mention this. Okay, Steph Curry initially that game was coming out kind of cold. We can just say he wasn't Steph Curry, and it seemed like after halftime he was on fire. Did you see the first or the three that he hit after halftime? He kind of pounded his chest and pointed towards the sky. Do you guys think that was like a tribute to Jerry?
No, that he was just coming out saying that he was feeling it. I think he had 6 points at halftime, and then he ended up with like 35 or something like that.
So, again, I read a lot in the Twitter sphere. And it sounds like a lot of Bulls fans are saying that the Bulls lost the game because there was a huge momentum shift after that halftime debacle, and it just completely sent the momentum the other way. As you know, I mean, we'll talk about this on our actual podcast, but the Bulls gave up 48 points in the third quarter alone to their own 20.
I think it was just karma. The second half was just karma for the Bulls fans to, get a reality check. Like, hey, you booed a guy who gave us 6 rings. All right, you're gonna continue to lose this season then. Even though we won yesterday, but still, like, I fully think it was karma.
The ghost of Jerry Krause caused the Bulls' inability to play perimeter defense. Obviously, that was the answer.
There you go.
Well, he must have been present the entire season, because our perimeter defense has been lackluster, to say the least. But yeah, I mean, in conclusion about this Ring of Honor, I think it's such a great idea. I'm all for always honoring those who came before us. I said it a couple times already, but I think they deserve better. In my opinion, those teams, those 90s Bulls teams, are probably the greatest teams in NBA history, bar none. And I feel like the way that we honored them was just absolutely abysmal. I think there is stuff that you need to change for next year. I think you need to learn from your mistakes. So let's just face it. That's the first one. There's going to be mistakes,
Yeah, the first one's always going to not be as good as.
And mistakes aside, there's going to be aspects where it's like, okay, they did that kind of cheaply. They did that kind of, they could have spent more time on this, but it's the first one. You know what I mean?
Well, it's also the Bulls though. Like,
yeah,
we're known to cut corners.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that the next one that they do is going to be fantastic. It's like the in-season tournament. The first one was good, but they know what to change for next time. The Bulls' first Ring of Honor it sucked, but at least they know what to change for next time.
Honestly, I hope they don't do this ever again. Like, I'd be fine if this just went away.
As a ceremony, I'll give you that. I don't think they'll do a ceremony like this as big as it is, but they will induct people into they're doing it every 2 years.
Or if you're going to do something like this, then do, like, I remember way back in the day, like I had like a breakfast with the Chicago Bulls, and I got to meet a bunch of players, and I met Bob Love, I met Derrick Rose, I met Carlos Boozer, um, and then you just got to hang out with the players for a little bit. Like if they did something like that, not like during the halftime of a game, like make it its own separate event that like fans would have to get like tickets to if they want to see these people. And
Yeah. No, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. I honestly, I could see them doing it in the middle of a game. Yeah, but I mean, I think it'd be really cool to make it a separate event.
do it during All-Star break because there's nothing going on.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're almost guaranteed that the entire Bulls roster will be present if you do it during All-Star break, minus Debo. He's the only one.
Yeah, like what, one or two Bulls players might not be there. Okay,
Yeah. Well, no, we won. So
let's push for a Kobe All-Star.
but that's really it, guys. Do you guys got anything before we close here in regards to Ring of Honor we didn't talk about? Scott?
Did it the wrong way. The Ring of Honor shouldn't have been the people that already had their things up in the banners. The Ring of Honor should be people that were good to the organization, but they aren't good enough to have like a banner up there.
Give other players their flowers, not players
like
that already have.
Artis Gilmore. Yeah, it should be those kind of people. Like Luol Deng. He's not going to get his number retired. He should be like those people. It should be the people that are good enough that they've done a lot for this organization. They played on the team for a long time, or they did a lot with the team, but they aren't going to get something up in the banner. They aren't going to get a banner up in the rafters. It should be those people that are in this. It's like the hall. It's basically the hall of very good. That's what it basically should be. It shouldn't be, hey, let's talk about the 90s again. Let's talk about something that happened 20, 25 years ago because our team is a joke and we haven't been able to build anything since the 80s.
Yeah.
90s.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So it's like a ceremony of honorable mentions.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
That's what it should have been.
Yeah,
it should have been. There's no reason to do the whole 95, 96 team.
Because we already know
it could have been like, yeah, how about bring back like Luke Longley and actually talk about him? Bring back Tony Kukoc, bring back Steve Kerr, bring back Ron Harper. All these people that did a lot. You put them in individually and you actually get to learn about their careers instead of, hey, this one team won 72 games. Oh, we have something in the rafters for them already.
Yep.
There's already stuff about them.
It doesn't even have to be like other players from the 90s. Like they could have brought in, like you said, like Luol Deng or Kirk Heinrich, players that have been with the organization for years, put in pretty much all their effort to the Bulls, and they're fan favorites, and they're more recent.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. They could have done something a little better and here's my opinion. Okay, do you guys think that the Bulls are maybe a little too picky of the numbers that we retire, or do you think that we just haven't had players that meet the criteria of having your jersey retired?
Well, I mean, what even is the criteria to get your jersey retired?
I mean, it's discretion of the team and the organization, of course, because like Michael Jordan's numbers retired in Miami, and he never played for Miami.
I understand that, but like in my personal opinion, I think that Noah's number should be up there in the rafters. I do think that Lou should be up there in the rafters. I do think that Derrick Rose should definitely be up there in the rafters. I feel like if you're going to put Phil up there, like I understand that Phil did amazing things for our team, but I mean, the greatest coach we've had since Phil has been Tom Thibodeau. I don't think he's rafter worthy, but like if you're going to put Phil up there, then might as well put up, Tom.
I mean, what meets the criteria of having your jersey retired? Because obviously we know why Mike and Scotty's number is up there, but I don't think Bulls fans as a whole can tell me why Jerry Sloan's number is up there or Bob Love's number is up there.
Yeah, I was about to say,
and those
what did Bob do that was so great that, like, I love Bob Love. I think he's probably up there just because he's the nicest guy I've ever met.
Bob's Love's numbers out there because he was an absolute dominant power forward during that era. Jerry Sloan's number was out there because not only did he play for us, but he coached our team.
Is Chuck's up in Phoenix?
I don't know if they retired his number yet or not. They might have. I'm assuming so.
Because, he's a prime example of a fantastic basketball player that has never won a ring. Same with Chris Paul. Chris Paul's number should be retired for sure in New Orleans.
Yeah. I mean, well, see, going off topic here, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. I always it's always fun trying to guess the team that is going to retire the Marathon Man's jersey. You know what I mean? Like you said, who retires Chuck's? Who retires Kevin Durant's jersey when he retires?
I would say Oklahoma.
Yeah. But yeah, me too. But
Sal, going back to you, are we too picky? 7 teams have less people retired than us. We have 4 retired. I'm looking at the Cavs. They have Ilgauskas retired. They have Brad Daughtry.
Who the heck is Brad Daughtry?
He was in the 90s.
Oklahoma City has Nick Collison, Spencer Haywood. Players that are good, but we've had better players than that.
I can name multiple players that are better than Nick Collison.
I am so glad you guys stopped right there, because if I heard Sean Kemp or Gary Payton mentioned under the same name as Oklahoma City, I would have lost my friggin' mind.
They own the rights to them.
Okay. All right. We're not doing this today. Sonic's Gate.
By the way, the Magic have 0 numbers retired, just 6 fans.
Well, they're going to do Shaq. They're retiring Shaq's number.
Did they retire Penny's number?
I don't know. I don't pay attention.
Are they going to retire?
Are
they going to retire Dwight's number? Because Dwight was absolutely ridiculous.
They should also retire Turkoglu's number then.
JJ Redick? Yeah.
That's a stretch.
JJ Redick was that guy.
Evan Fournier before JJ Redick.
All right. We're ending the episode.
Yeah, okay. Episode over.
Yeah. All right, fellas. Well, I mean, that's going to wrap it up for this special bonus edition of the Horns Over Hoops podcast, shadowing the Ring of Dishonor, as we're calling it. We have our regular episode to follow. Thanks for joining us here. If you have any other thoughts or opinions about the Ring of Honor that we didn't touch, feel free to drop us a comment on Twitter. Follow us. We engage in talks during the games. Thank you to all our fans who've tuned in and shown us support. We appreciate it more than you can ever imagine. And from all of us here at the Horns Over Hoops podcast, we always invite you to see red and go Bulls. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Vote for Kobe.